Hi, I'm Jadon, the dinosaur expert. It's been a while again since I last did a presentation video, and normally I'd be talking about dinosaurs and other prehistoric reptiles, but today we're going to talk about Dimetrodon and early mammal evolution. And I'm going to start with its misidentification. So those of you who may have seen Dimetrodon, maybe you've opened a toy of plastic dinosaurs, like with plastic dinosaur toys, and found a weird looking animal with a sail on its back, and you might mistake it for a dinosaur like Spinosaurus. But this animal wasn't really a dinosaur, even though it gets mistaken all the time for one, probably because of the way it looks. Dimetrodon is not even a true reptile. Like, back in the day, in old books and documentaries like Walking with Monsters from the BBC series, you probably heard them call them mammal-like reptiles, but it doesn't really make much sense when you come to think about it. These weren't really reptiles, they were the earliest ancestors of mammals, although not true mammals, so we refer to them as proto-mammals, and the specific group that Dimetrodon belongs to are the Pelycosaurs. Pelycosaurs are an ancient group of proto-mammal ancestors that evolved throughout the Permian period, which was the very last time period of the late Permian period. Dimetrodon itself evolved in the middle part of the Permian to the late part, and Dimetrodon was one of the top predators of the Permian period at the very top of the food chain, because this animal with these shearing teeth likely ate other Pelycosaurs, including maybe even early sharks like Xenocanthus, which is a eel-like shark that lived in the ponds of the late Permian period, and that Dimetrodon would have likely hunted. And another thing about Dimetrodon, if you look at the skull right here, you'll see a hole behind it. Dimetrodon and other early mammal relatives, including true mammals, belong to the synapsid group, including us humans, since we're mammals as well. So Dimetrodon is actually more closely related to me and you than you originally would think, because Dimetrodon is a synapsid just like us. Synapsids are animals that have one hole behind the eye socket, unlike diapsids, which are reptiles that include lizards, crocodiles, dinosaurs, and birds. Those are diapsids because they have two holes behind the eye socket of their skull, but we synapsids only have one, which is where our ears are placed. On a human skull, you may not see that extra hole, but it is still there, which is where our ears are, really. So the holes of the synapsid group and us humans is really right here, and Dimetrodon share that common feature along with other early mammal relatives, including true mammals. So that's how we know that Dimetrodon was really an ancient ancestor of the mammals. But unlike true mammals, this animal still reproduced by laying eggs, so it still laid eggs in nests, and another common feature about it is the sail, of course. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would mistake this animal for Spinosaurus, but as we all know, that's a dinosaur, and it was mainly bipedal, although mainly quadrupedal really, but Dimetrodon had a bit of a splayed out posture, not an upright posture like some other mammals and dinosaurs. So Dimetrodon likely had the sail on the back, probably for thermoregulation. Maybe when it was hot out, it would turn its sail away from the sun to help it cool down, or maybe when it was cold, it would turn its sail towards the sunlight to help it warm it up. And pretty much it was also used as a display feature, so it would have had more colorful patterns than this. So that's what Dimetrodon likely used the sail for, especially with other animals with sails. The sail evolved independently in other types of animal groups, like with dinosaurs, such as the famous Spinosaurus. But definitely don't mistake this animal for one, because like I said, it's not a dinosaur, it's a Pelycosaur. And Dimetrodon was discovered in the 1800s by a man named Edward Drinker Cope, who was competing with his rival Othniel Marsh from Yale University. They were competing with each other in the western United States to discover who can find the most fossils, and the Dimetrodon was one of Cope's discoveries, so he named it Dimetrodon, meaning two measures of teeth, because just like all mammals, it has two types of teeth, one for biting and one for shearing. So Dimetrodon would use its front teeth to bite into its prey, and then you would use the teeth in the back to shear. So that's the story of Dimetrodon until its story ended at the end of the Permian period by a great mass extinction, the worst that likely happened in the history of planet Earth. Scientists call it the Great Dying. It happened 252 million years ago when the Earth started becoming very unbearable. Volcanic activity, not the volcanoes that you're used to seeing, mega volcanoes that split out of the ground, pouring out lava. That type of volcanoes that we're definitely not used to seeing. And of course, climate change and all that other disastrous events, especially carbon dioxide, is what caused the end of the Permian to go into extinction. And Dimetrodon and a lot of other animals cannot cope with those conditions. This was a time when life was almost obliterated, but thankfully Luckily, it wasn't, because some animals managed to survive. Some other proto-mammals like cynodonts and dicynodonts made it through, including the archosaurs, which are the group of reptiles that include the dinosaurs. Once the Permian ended, the Mesozoic era began, and that was the time when other types of animals were starting to evolve. Our mammalian ancestors were evolving, but the Mesozoic era belonged to the archosaurs, like crocodilians and their extinct relatives, the pterosaurs, and the dinosaurs. If you want to learn all about mammal evolution, where we came from, and the earliest ancestors like Dimetrodon, then be sure to check out Stephen Brusati's famous book, The Rise and Reign of the Mammals, A New History from the Shadow of the Dinosaurs to Us, which talks about the long evolutionary journey of proto-mammals into true mammals, and also the evolution of humans. And Dimetrodon was one of our very earliest ancestors, as well as other pelycosaurs, since they share the same synapsid group with other mammals. Thank you for joining me today and talking about early mammal evolution, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.